My loves, we are back and we have not only an uncomfortable chair, but we have a new chocolate bar. Good afternoon, fine people of the internet. Welcome back to Maverick Baking and welcome back to another chocolate bar review. In case the title and that embarrassing opening sequence hadn't given you a clue as to what was in store today. So today we're tasting a bar that appeared as a bit of a surprise. We're tasting the new British Cadbury CARAMILK. Now Cadbury already have a bar known as the CARAMILK, which I believe, though correct me if you're in another part of the world and I'm wrong here, I believe the CARAMILK is an Australian and New Zealand product for Cadbury. I don't think it's available in Canada, I don't think it's available in South Africa, I could be wrong, or in India, but it certainly hasn't been available here in the UK without having to import it quite expensively from Australia. There is a previous video on the channel if you want to embarrass yourself and me by watching an older video of said review. But I think I liked it. I think the CARAMILK was generally pretty nice. It's almost like Cadbury's equivalent of the classic British CARAMILK, which I believe is made by Nestle, a kind of caramel flavored white chocolate. Super sweet. If you don't like your chocolate sweet, I can already tell you you're gonna hate this. But we're going to be trying this brand new British release today and see if it is worth your money. Let's do it. So I found this in my local Tesco, even just like a corner shop Tesco, in one of those kind of corner bins. It cost £1. Not too bad for Cadbury, to be honest. And I must say, I do actually quite like the packaging, even though I do hate the fonts Cadbury are using at the moment. I like the blend of that sort of, you know, blonde caramel colour with the purple. I think it's kind of nice. She has had a fantastic time at the hairdresser. She is blonde as hell and smells incredibly enticing. So let me just give you a little kind of close-up of all of those little Cadbury CARAMILK swirls on the front. I must say I'm glad they put a little bit of effort into the bar, because a lot of new Cadbury bars, such as all of the recent Inventions bars, looked completely bland from the outside. So it's nice to see just, you know, a bit of effort here. It smells seriously caramelly. There's a kind of vanilla white chocolate smell. There's obviously no snap because this is going to be super soft. There's barely even a thud. Texturally, I imagine this is going to be a little bit creamier than the Australian version, typically because whenever, personally, I've tasted Cadbury that is intended for warmer climates, they have a higher kind of dry content ratio within the bar so that it doesn't melt as easily. Let's see if that's the case here. If I'm being honest, I can see this being a real hit here. Perhaps unexpectedly, I'm actually struggling to find faults with this. I bet you're as surprised too. Normally the issues that arise with Cadbury chocolate is that they try to pass off their milk chocolate as something kind of luxurious or particularly milky or particularly chocolatey. Nowadays it's neither. It's usually hyper sweet, hyper milky, and a little bit kind of grainy. It doesn't really satisfy milk chocolate lovers the way it might have previously. However, when we're talking about this, that's a totally different conversation. If you're handing me something that you're going to call golden caramel chocolate, and this is what you're giving me, honestly, the brief has been pretty much nailed. The flavor, if I remember correctly though, it's been a couple of years since I did taste the other Cadbury CARAMILK bar. This is pretty much spot on with that. The texture is the same of that of a milky bar. It's smooth, it's milky, you know that there's kind of some vegetable oil in there, you know that there's some powderiness in there, but it is also very creamy. It does melt nicely in the mouth, which a lot of Cadbury chocolate doesn't nowadays due to that graininess. And looking at the ingredients, the caramel flavour does obviously come from some flavouring, but it does also come from them using caramelized milk powder. So they must have kind of toasted it or blowtorched it or something like that. But it has actually given it this unexpectedly natural caramel flavour, that kind of toasty sugar flavour, instead of the artificial caramel taste you get from Kit Kats or Twixes, for example. It's definitely not something that I think you could eat in large quantities, as it is extremely sweet, but the flavour is very pleasant. It's very milky, it's very creamy, it's very mellow. Even as someone who isn't a huge fan of all things caramel, I'd be very happy to buy this again, if I'm being perfectly honest. Even if it was a kind of 2 or 3 squares at a time kind of thing. But even the thought of using this in baking, the thought of using this in blondies or in a cheesecake or in cookie bars or something is getting me quite excited, which is a good sign. I didn't expect this to be the case, but both on the kind of consistency of that flavor and the somewhat pleasant texture, for what it is, for the price it is, and what it's trying to be, I'm actually gonna give the Cadbury CARAMILK a 5 out of 5. I know. If you guys have tasted the Cadbury CARAMILK, do let me know in the comments what you think. It's not my favourite chocolate on the planet by any means, but for what this bar is supposed to be, it has absolutely nailed it, and I couldn't really find any fault on what it is for the price it is, if that makes sense. Do let me know your thoughts though. In the meantime though guys, that is all I have time for today. Thank you as always for watching. If you haven't already, because I know that many of you watch and don't subscribe and it's not good enough, do consider subscribing and do consider just giving a little tiny tap to that like button on the way out. It helps us fight the eternal fight of the YouTube algorithm. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you for the next one.